Top bolts are out. I just undid the sump pan bolts. I'm sure this is pinned. No, maybe not. I really didn't want to go that far upright, this way with the engine, because I didn't, anything in the pan like this, I didn't really want it draining down into the motor. But I looked in from, the clutch side here. See my finger? And it didn't look that bad. So I said, well, I could probably go a little bit better than vertical, which is what I did. Really can't get much of a view of everything until we get the oil pump and stuff out. Yeah, because the transmission's essentially sitting between the two shafts. You have your primary here, or your main shaft, that's on the clutch side, and then your output shaft is actually up in here. So this is your primary and counter shaft. This would be the end right here that the counter shaft sits in. It's a closed off end and it's open on that side. Of course, that's the sprocket side. This particular service manual is kind of sucky. This Honda one, I don't know what the hell. This one's just crappy, but I know from experience, and you can see to get some of the case bolts, we got to get this oil pump assembly out of the way. So I'll go ahead and do that off camera, bag it and tag it, and then we'll get a little bit further. Maybe we can actually see a little bit inside there and get an idea what's going on. All right, here's the main shaft right there. And nothing really jumps out at me. Yeah, there's definitely some chamfering on those dogs. I call them cogs, but their service manual says dogs. And I could account for a lot of this metal in there, but it's I can't sometimes you can't see inside the edge of the receiver side, or the recess side of that dog, where it goes on some of these gears, like inside there on this one. But I've looked around in here so far and can't really see something really terrible about it. So I'm thinking here's what the likely scenario is. Since we saw that orange goo around this shifter cover, which is actually a fairly complicated thing. I was looking at this over here. I was looking at the service data on that. It has like 2 pages on splitting the case and 8 on this thing. So there's a bunch of different doodads and things in there. I haven't taken it apart yet. But let's go ahead and we'll shift it through the gears here, and we'll see what it's actually doing. So I'm going to count off the gears as I can get into it, and then, get into them rather. And then, you have to manipulate the 2 shafts basically. There's a joke there somewhere, and we'll get her in and out of gear here. So let me go ahead and put her in first. Okay, so that's neutral. Should be first. There we go. Now we're in first. So we're 1 down. We're in first. And that's normal. That amount of play like that in there is completely normal, because it's the distance between these dogs and one another. That's what that is. That's just that distance. All right. Now, I'm going to move this a little bit. Shaft is not quite right. Now let's double check. We're going to neutral. Should be neutral. And yeah, no. Okay, first. Now we're back in neutral. Okay, it's just kind of verifying that that's first. So first neutral, let's go to second. Should be in second now. Go to third. Nothing. See, that's what I found too. There's no third gear. So all the problem must be on the counter shaft. Fourth. Again, nothing. Fifth. See how that slid over? Now we're in fifth. And let's try to get it in top gear. According to this, nope, not yet. That should be 6th gear, top gear, yeah. So the problem is everything got to be on the counter shaft side, because I can't see what that's doing up in there on the other side of the shifter drum. But now we're 5th. See, look at that. So 5th, 4th. Now it's supposed to be 4th. Nothing. Got to be on the counter shaft side or shifter fork or the shifter mechanism itself. Third, nothing. Should be second. And turn these. Come on, baby. There we go. That should be first. And won't go anymore. Yep. So that you see what I'm dealing with here. Like I said, we can only see part of this move because of the fact that the counter shaft is out of sight right now. It's behind this shifter drum on the other side of that. So you have one shifter fork here and two there. All right. So I got all the fasteners out from the bottom of the case. Now this is interesting. I forgot to mention this before. The service data says to take the cylinder head off. It doesn't even say which. What they mean is the rear cylinder head, because there's actually 3 bolts that you cannot get out with the cylinder head because it comes over the edge here. But you can loosen them and they hang free. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. They're going to stay with the top case. They're not part of the bottom case. They screw from the top into the bottom of the crankcase half. So I'm thinking to myself, why in the hell would you do that unless you needed to get the bolts out for something, which I'm not going to bother with. So we're just going to leave them hang there. So 3 of the, I think it's 5 or 7 or something like that on the top are still in place. That's pretty interesting. Now, the service data usually gives you an order to remove these things, and sometimes there's a number on the actual casting, like on the KZs, in which order to tighten them, and there is no such information on this one. It just says to tighten or loosen them rather in a cross pattern and do it in 2 or 3 steps. Well, I got to the big M12s or M10 bolt, but M12 head in the center around the crankstock. I could not break them by hand, so I gently ugga-dugga each one in a cross pattern, did the best I could. I hope I haven't screwed the case up, but it's the best I can do. So basically, we should be able to tap this and get it up out of the way and start moving it. I mean, I've done other ones like this before. It hasn't been a problem, but not necessarily a V4. Now, the shifter mechanism stays with it, of course, as part of the bottom case, because the only thing that contacts, if you will, the actual gear train, the main shaft and the counter shaft, is those forks. They'll just pick right up and come out. We'll set it down, take a look at it upside down. All right, well, she's moving slowly. You got to do it slowly but surely. Well, we're gonna have to, might need to get a little bit more force here. Yeah, there she goes. Yep, you just got to take her off even. Yeah, she's getting ready to pop. Pop! So we'll be able to do that now. We got it on that corner, so we'll do this corner over here. Yeah, she's coming. There it is. Alright, like I said, it just is one of those things. I don't want to lose my forks. Oh, yeah. Ooh. I'll show you this in a second. We are going to account for pins. There's one here, and there's one on this side over here. Let me see if you can see what I'm pointing at. Yeah, you can. There's one here, and there's one in a hole back here. There isn't any in the front, it looks like. And then there's one in the back right, not quite on the corner, so about right there. Yeah. And that one's, there's 2 of them left in the bottom and one's left in the top here. So we'll verify that there's only 3 before this thing goes back together to make sure I didn't lose anything. But I didn't hear it sound like, dimes bouncing down a diamond plate floor or anything like that. So basically, that's what we're looking at. Let's take a look at the tranny. All right, again, this is your main shaft right here, counter shaft. So let me get my light. Yeah, you can see some damage on those dogs there. They're rounded off. Not really, really bad, but they are bad enough apparently. But I would suspect that the main problem is probably in that shifter mechanism. I bet you that thing is is got some problems. But here's also some evidence right there. If you look at that shifter fork, there's where a lot of your wear was coming from in metal. Inside there was from these forks. Certainly from the gears. They look like splinters, like that you would see from the edge of those dogs or cogs, whatever you want to call them. But here's where we have a lot of wear on that one. I'm not really sure which one that is. Let's kind of look down at them, get an idea if they look bent or anything. They don't really look bent. That end one, there's got to be a reason why that one is so worn. Sometimes you get people that ride these bikes and they keep their foot on the shifter because, number one, they're morons, and number two, it's a comfortable position. It's almost like a foot peg for them. That would be a good example of what could cause that. Could. I'm not saying it did. But, definitely it wasn't going into these gears. And without anything like busted off or completely worn down to a nub on these cogs, which I just don't see. I see pretty much normal wear. And I'm going to change it out for that other tranny anyway, probably, it looks like. But because I think this bearing is suspect now, because when I drilled that hole yesterday, I think some chips got down in it. I didn't really care because I knew I was going to change the main shaft. So we'll probably just swap that in because I bet it's in better condition. And, we likewise have some corrosion outboard on this one as well. So it's pretty much 1 for 1. But I'll do a little bit more detailed examination once I pull the shafts. There's a joke there too, and we'll take a better look at it. Now, if you look down inside there, you can see some more wear where one of those dogs goes. So this thing has not been engaging properly into gears, or somebody has not been doing it right, or forcing it, as evidenced by what we have there. Yeah, this is sometimes just a little, it can feel a little bit of a line there where that groove is, but, it's not terribly bad. So we'll clean that up very, very lightly, and should be okay, I hope. We'll see. Let's loosen this one up a little bit. Come on, baby. There it goes. So you got a little rounding on the dogs there. A lot of mess in that slot for the shifter fork. So yeah, she's there's some damage, but I was expecting to see a lot more. That's pretty rounded right there. You see that? That right there would be a problem. But it would be more of a jumping out of gear thing, not a not going into gear at all thing. See, that's the two conditions here that don't seem to jive, except maybe something in there, which I'll take apart next. Because maybe somebody was in there. As you see, there's some red or orange schmoo, and maybe it was put back in correctly, because it does seem pretty complicated based on the service data. And, who knows? But generally speaking, when you have worn teeth like this, and that one's really bad. There, you can see that. You see? That one's real bad. So when they're worn down like that, it's more of a jumping out of gear deal, not going into gear at all. But there's a really good example of a super worn one. And all, I don't know. I honestly don't know what gear this is. I'd have to look it up on the parts fish and do a comparison. And with all this wear on there, I certainly wouldn't reuse them. Number one, even if there wasn't a whole lot of wear on those, because with the shifter forks wearing right there, you probably got a bunch of different shavings that may have migrated in there. So we'll definitely change these out with the ones I have. Oh yeah, strangely satisfying. We're gonna have to, like I said, it just doesn't feel scored. It just feels scratched, and I can't even really feel anything with a nail. It's more just like a little bit of, maybe it turned a little bit, who knows. But over the years, maybe even some vibration made it move around, who knows. I'm not gonna worry about it. So, all right, where are we going to go with this next? I am going to rearrange here a little bit and get both shafts out. Let's go ahead and take the shifter assembly out and we'll take a look at that. I'm going to use the service data for that. I have it all printed out already. Like I said, there's like 8 pages for that alone, and there's like 2 for this. Take it apart. So that leads me to believe that Honda's got some shenanigans going on in there that you have to have right. Otherwise, it ain't going to work right. And right there is kind of evidence that maybe that's the case here. I'm trying to remember if I mentioned that I broke a bolt on taking off the bearing retainer on the, it would be the clutch side for that would be the main shaft. The bearing retainer for that would be on the other side of the block over there. And so I got that drilled out yesterday. So some of the chips in that pan are from that because they would have fallen down right through. I can't remember if I mentioned it or not. Let's get this shifter assembly out. And the other thing was I had to make a tool for the spanner nut that holds the clutch on. I didn't have the right size, so I used the mill yesterday for its first official duty. Let's take the shifter forks out actually, because they're right on top of their one. They're labeled L, C, and R for, I don't know, left, center, and right. I mean, that is really bad. That's where a lot of your chips are coming from, if not all of them. It's like sticking your hands in baby crap, if you're into that kind of stuff. Alright. Well, the spring don't look broken. It would normally sit like that. It's just cocked over because it didn't have that boss in there to hold it in place. So that's one of them that ain't broken at least. Can you see? You can't even see, can you? Yeah, like I said, well, this would be your main return spring for your shifter lever though. So it click, click, and it would come back, click, click, come back, depending on which way you're going, direction you're going in. Well, you know, it just doesn't feel terrible. Let's take a look at that drum now that we can kind of see it better. I don't know why this thing is not going into third or fourth. You know, certainly could be a bent shifter fork, and I just can't really tell. But I'll hold it up to the new ones. We'll take the, not new ones, but the replacement ones out and see if it is. Because I tell you what, I just don't see anything that's just jumping out at me on this. So yeah, there's some wear to transmission and there's significant wear to that fork. But, you know, I was expecting to see something a little bit more significant than this, or really telltale. I just don't see it. I do kind of like this. It's essentially a planetary that revolves around a center gear and an outer gear. And so as it rotates around the outer gear, it'll drive the center gear in an opposite direction, of course. But that's pretty interesting how they did that. I bet you it's pretty smooth if it works properly. I'm trying to think, like, again, the service data sucks. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm supposed to get this out. I think it's just these two. I don't know. Yeah, there you go. All right. Yeah, this thing is a complicated little bugger. Yeah, I might have to figure out how this actually works in order to make sure that I got it back in right, but I'll just follow the service data. But so far it doesn't look like it's trashed or anything. This must be the actual thing that engages. Yeah, I see what it does. Okay, so here's what happens. When you hit the shifter and you are rotating this, of course, the shifter lever, what it does is it rotates the shifter shaft, as I said. Yeah, so it's pretty complicated. All right, guys, I found the problem, and I didn't wait until the end to make it dramatic. I just saw this. Follow along with me. Inside the transmission, I found this little piece of a circlip. Obviously, it's a clip, since it looks like one, right? And so I said, where in the hell did that go? And then I saw a part on this, or a spot on this counter shaft, right in there, that you can see that has a groove and no clip. So then I pulled out this replacement counter shaft. When you do this on this one without the clip, one where the broken clip was, you can see that both of these gears are moving together. They're not supposed to do that. And if you look on this one, they don't. There's the problem. That's the deal. And you can also see that this gear is chipped because it's been going where it's not supposed to go. So, yeah, until I took it out, I just couldn't really tell what the hell the cause was. So there's some chips and no dip. So a lot of those pieces down in training were that, but I don't know where the rest of this went. It's probably got chewed up. Probably got chewed up by the gears. So that's probably what some of those pieces are. And I'll do my due diligence and check the block again, but that is definitely the cause. This is the reason why it wasn't working. All right, if you look right there, see that circlip? It's bent. So there's another problem. So what was happening was, without that clip retaining the other gear, these gears are just slamming into each other and slamming around and just beating this spring clip or circlip to death, where it's actually partially disengaged from the shaft. There's the problem. Like I said, I'm not trying to be dramatic here. I didn't wait till the end for this. I just saw this. I just found this once I looked back in there. I said, holy shit, where'd that come from? Yep. That is the cause. I feel better about it now because I just could not figure out what the hell it was. I'm like, I don't really see anything that jumps out at me. But when I saw that, I want to show you. We definitely found the problem. So what I got to do now is I got to stop. I'm going to stop the video as well and sign out here because I've got to clean up. This is a big mess. And then I got to clean myself up and go pick up that swing arm from the welder for the Z1R. And then go to the grocery store and do my domestic duties for today. And then try to get this video edited up on the channel. Well, folks, that's good that we figured that out, huh? I mean, I was like, what the hell is causing this? And then when I saw that piece of metal in there, that remnants of a clip, I'm like, oh, wow. And again, I didn't plan that. I didn't plan to put that at the very end to make it like dramatic or something. I just saw that and I said, oh, boy. So I pulled out, again, the other one and you could see what happened. So yeah, this is what we're going to do now. Probably not going to see another video on this for a while because I haven't got all the soft parts in yet, O-rings and seals and things like that. They're on the way. And once I get that in, I've got to organize all those. Usually I'll make a list. I actually did it this morning based on the parts fiche. And then I put, regular nomenclature, like regular names, like what a part goes to. I got to label all those bags when they come in. And then way I can just pull from them and start reassembling without going, what the hell is this thing for? Based on part number. So I got to get all that done. And I got to get this cleaned up as much as possible in its present state. I'll bring you back when I get the bottom case back on with transmission and the shifter forks and everything in there. And then I will fire up the camera. We'll go through a test run of the transmission before I put the oil pump in so you can kind of see at least a little bit what's going on. And then I'll video whatever else needs to be videoed after that. I don't know if I'll do a separate clip on testing it or not, or integrated with video, what would be 5, I guess, at that point. So yeah, let me get this absolute mess cleaned up and send the video packing. But I don't want you to go packing. I want you to stick around. And how you do that is you subscribe, you ring the bell, like the video. It helps me all out, and you get notified when I put something else up. So as I always say when I sign off, thanks for watching. Don't just repair, restore. Catch you on the next video.